Did you immediately understand the documents you came across and the importance of it for the public?
Alors, j'ai vraiment compris l'importance du travail que je faisais des documents quand j'ai vu le premier reportage d'Edouard Perrin, le journaliste qui est aussi inculpé.
Well, I really understood the importance of the document when I saw the first reportage of the journalist Edouard Perrin.
Alors, il a fait un reportage qui s'appelle Tâche Investigation en mai 2012, où il révélait les schémas et les documents qui prouvaient l'évasion fiscale de Luxembourg dans mon entreprise.
He made a first reportage in 2012 about his investigations in Luxembourg, and I felt concerned by these revelations.
Et c'est vraiment à ce moment-là que j'étais choqué, j'étais sidéré par les documents et par, qui me passaient entre les mains, qui étaient en fait les preuves d'une évasion fiscale à l'échelle industrielle.
That really made me shocked when I realized that I had these documents in my hands. These documents that actually turned out to be proof of this kind of activity of multinational companies and what they were doing.
And how exactly did you blow the whistle? How exactly did you do it? Is it possible to say very, very briefly?
C'est très simple, vu qu'il avait déjà fait un reportage très sérieux, je l'ai contacté et je l'ai encouragé, je l'ai aidé à continuer son enquête.
Well, that's pretty simple. Since I already seen that he did an article that was really serious, I had confidence in him, and I called him up and I asked him to continue the work that he was doing.
And how did your fellow workers react? Did they applaud what you were doing? Did they shun you? How did your fellow workers react?
Ils n'étaient pas au courant, ils ont tout découvert à partir du moment où mon nom a été rendu public, fin 2014. Et même ma femme a appris tout à ce moment-là, au moment du fameux accord au Prince.
Well, they didn't know anything actually. They didn't know anything until everything was revealed at the end of 2014. Not even my wife knew anything until that time, and until this famous agreement was drawn up.
And with everything that happened to you after you blew the whistle, everything included, would you have done the same thing again if you knew what cost it would come at?
C'est une question qu'on me pose souvent, et c'est une question qu'on me pose souvent que je comprends même maintenant en anglais.
Well, that's a question that I get all the time, and now I even understand it in English.
Oui, je referai, mais différemment pour que ça ait encore plus d'impact.
Yes, I would have done it again, but I would have done it in a different way, so it would have had even more consequences.
Peut-être j'aurais eu plus d'ennui aussi.
Sorry?
Peut-être j'aurais eu plus d'ennui aussi.
I would maybe have more nuisances as well.
If you should give any recommendations to other possible whistleblowers, which recommendations would you like to give? Are there any technical mechanisms, any type of information that you would recommend be in place before you blow the whistle?
Si vous voulez donner des préconisations à notre potentiel lanceur d'alerte, est-ce que vous avez des préconisations en particulier par rapport à la technique, la façon de le faire, pour protéger? Non, pour le reste.
Oui, je pense qu'il faudrait un système comme l'a dit Amélie sur les c'est ça? La plateforme E8. Je pense qu'il faudrait une plateforme pour pouvoir révéler les documents, mais que ce ne soit pas quelque chose d'un parti politique ou d'une ONG, que ce soit quelque chose de national ou d'européen.
Well, yes, I think it would be a good idea to go through a platform like Amélie mentioned, Unix. But preferably it should be through a national body or something that would be more national level. That would be my recommendation.
Aussi afin que ça soit impartial, que ça soit une voie officielle et publique.
It should be an impartial and official public way. That's the way to do it.
Amélie Lefebvre, you are part of a law firm protecting whistleblowers. Why do you do that?
Why do I do that, or why does my firm do that? Because my firm does that, I do that. No, it's initially, at the bottom of our hearts, we are criminal lawyers. So we love the fight, and we go for that. And whistleblowers are good conscience cases. No, on a more serious, it's a question of principle. It's a question of human rights. It's more than a case of an individual, but if you do not protect the individual, the case becomes nothing. It is not acceptable to consider that the information has been given, let's use it. It's used by the journalists and experts and investigators, etc. But there is one person who permitted this, and it's thanks to one person, the whistleblower who did it initially, and that person cannot be just left like, thank you for the documents and bye. It's part of a larger issue. It's also a moral issue to protect and defend that whistleblower.
It is extremely important to protect whistleblowers. Most of us here might think 4 out of 5 scandals lately has been because of the actions of whistleblowers. We briefly touched upon the issue of safe communication and encrypted communication earlier. I would like to ask you a little bit about that. Is the communication safe today? Is it encrypted? Are whistleblowers safe? Are we now safe from our government's laws so that we can have such communication?
That's a complicated question as well. There are ways to make your communication safe using encrypted programs to encrypt your communication, like a PGP or WhatsApp also has not an encrypted system, but it all depends. If you talk about the US, you better not use WhatsApp. You have some Swiss systems who are very efficient, but obviously if you are talking about the Swiss Leaks case, you'd rather use another system. So it's difficult to guarantee that you are 100% sure that no one else has access to the communication between you and the whistleblower. I think it's valid also for journalists when they are working on sources. So it is something we learn to do as well as lawyers, because we're supposed to benefit from privileged communications, and I use the term supposed to on purpose. We know it's not the case, and although it cannot be used publicly against us, we know that it's still out there. We have to take in for whistleblowers extra caution, and to the extent that we can, and for the 5% of doubt that we still have, then we just have to learn to let it go as well.
We heard from the presentation from Lukas Strozyk that whistleblowers are very important for journalists. How is it the other way around? How important are journalists for whistleblowers? There's perhaps before, during, and after. Could you say something more about that?
Yeah, from the whistleblowers we work with, and on the cases we worked on, and this has where William Bourdon has started more than 10 years ago. with police officers who have reported, one who has reported misuse of private information collected by the police services against French citizens. So it's a long story now for the firm. We have really witnessed how whistleblowers are totally lost when they have information and they don't know what to do with it. They think that going to see a lawyer will be too expensive. They think that they cannot report to their hierarchy. They think that they cannot go and see any journalist because they're not sure what would be done with the information. They rely on journalists who might, in certain cases, and now more and more, have more experience, can help them, can give them indications, can help them to help themselves to implement the protection as they reveal the information. That's also very important for the whistleblower and to protect the information that is revealed as well.
I would like to ask you, Lukas Strozyk, you've been working on all of the leaks, Panama leaks, Lux leaks, Swiss leaks. Can I ask you very briefly, what has been the most chilling thought that you've been thinking about during these leaks?
You mean chilling in what I found inside of the data?
Or your worries about this?
Okay, so this is probably this is obviously the Panama Papers data because it was very detailed and there was information in it which clearly was not meant to be read by anybody else. But also very personal stuff. I mean, the offshore tax havens are used as a measure to sort out family issues, for example, and you would have wills in there. People would kill themselves, and the last letters would be in the documents because it says, "Don't give anything to my son." It's not a good thing, but it's a very strange situation as a journalist to peek behind the skirt and to read stuff like this and to work with it, and you have to consider if any of this is interesting enough and good enough to put it out there. We didn't put out the letters. So.
The newspaper you're working for,
It's a TV station.
Sorry, is it a public broadcaster?
It is.
It is, okay. So your editors and those who are over you, could you do what you wanted to? Did you have, free access, free time, or were there any pressure against you to go ahead with what you want to do?
So for me, it's a development. I started in the earlier projects, like I said in my presentation, and I said that I just sat at the right spot, which is not exactly true. I think I didn't do too much wrong in the first project, so they trusted me for the coming project as well. And I was very lucky that they, especially for Luxembourg leaks and Panama Papers, gave me a lot of room to follow leads and research stuff that in the end wasn't even published at all. So one of the major problems with the Panama Papers was, as I tried to describe, was the huge amount of information we had, and most of the time was actually spent putting stuff aside that's not worth reporting or that is too far away from our audience, or which we wouldn't put out in the public for any other reasons. And this is sometimes very hard to tell to your boss that you worked for 1 week and it really helped, like for the overall league it helped a lot, but not for an individual story. You cannot say I dug out this story in the last week. You can just say I put 12 stories away, which is not what you want to say. But it's very important in leagues like this.
You mentioned that you have to rely upon whistleblowers. Would you encourage anyone to be a whistleblower?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and it's a hard ethical fight, I would say. Every investigative journalist wants to know or wants to get information that is unknown and it's somewhere hidden in a company or in an institution or something. But what I do not want, and what I think most of my colleagues do not want, is to push someone in a situation where he or she does not want to be, or where it's my fault in the end that someone lost jobs, lives, and like the total situation changed, or like your situation. So I would not encourage someone to leak information, but I would always be open and helpful if someone made the decision himself or herself.
So we have seen exposed in a grand scale the multinational companies, individuals, and their financial activities and information. It spans across countries, and also journalists need to work and do their investigations across countries. That means that you will have to work together with journalists in other countries who are perhaps under completely different regime work-wise than yourself. How is that? Do you have to change and tailor the way that you work with other journalists in some particular countries?
So the short answer is yes. And obviously, you have to talk differently to colleagues in, for example, Turkey, where the situation for the press is very bad, or to a certain extent also in Russia. Those are the two countries I was involved with in the recent past, but there are probably a couple more I don't think of right now. But what we should always keep in mind is that the situation for us in Germany and in, I would say, in wide parts of Europe is quite okay in terms of press freedom, and we should use this freedom we have to support our colleagues in all the other countries. So it's good if we speak up and say what's going on in Turkey, that we cannot accept this. If we do this in Germany, or probably in Norway as well, because they cannot do it. It's much harder for them to make the step to just say, we need to change up the situation. And on a very daily basis, of course, I choose different means to communicate with a colleague in, let's say, Berlin or Munich than I would do with a colleague in Istanbul.
So what is your impression from working cross borders with journalists in some countries? Are they able to speak up or write what they want to write?
I think so. At the time where I, as like part of a broader network, get in touch with those journalists or those colleagues, this is already a not normal situation for them. This is for most of them, this is not their everyday life, and it helps a lot. In the Panama Papers, a big part of the story was about Russia, and we had Russian colleagues who said, we want to be part of your films, we want to be part of your reporting, because it's protecting us, it helps us. So I think it's something we have to keep in mind, and I can only encourage people to build networks and protect themselves. But if someone says that's not the solution for me, I hide wherever I am, and I try to be down low. That might work for them as well, but this is not something I can see, because if someone speaks to me, he usually already made the decision to start this network.
The source behind the Panama leaks decided to be anonymous. Are there any discussions about whether or not this would, in any way, diminish the value of the source?
If someone's deciding not to show a face or give a name, you mean, yeah?
Mm-hmm. Is it on
so
credibility of the source?
So, what I always try, and what worked great for the Panama Papers, obviously, is to focus on not on the circumstances, but on the material you get. So if you see something is wrong, also in much smaller cases, if someone comes to me from company A, and I know that company A and company B compete, and he gives me information on the other company, I would still use it if I see that something's is going on there, that something's wrong there, because the information itself does not lie and does not have a political agenda. So for me, it does not diminish the leak, or it does not make a difference. Actually, it's easier to work with sources who do not want to be recognized, or who do not even tell me who they are, because then I cannot make mistakes. This is the simple thing. On the other hand, you have, for example, people like Edward Snowden, who step out in public and who sort of change the image of a whistleblower and start to speak up, even besides the actual leak, on topics in their field, in cybersecurity, in policy, even in fields that are not even related anymore in the case of Edward Snowden to what he originally leaked. And this is a good thing as well. It's not going to happen if you have an anonymous source.
You mentioned that you were working from a safe place. How do you view the new media laws in the UK and the possibilities to do surveillance of activities online?
Yeah, I think this is something, this is one of the major things that bother me after the Snowden revelation. So in the post-Snowden area, what I hoped for was that people would, that the politicians would see that something's wrong and would sort of take the laws back. And what they actually do in Germany, in the UK even more, is to see that the secret services went over the boundaries, and now they just make it legal. They just push the boundary from here to here, instead of saying, okay, this is the boundary and they went here, we have to punish them. They just keep pushing the boundaries, and this is something that's really, really bad, I think. And especially, I don't know if you guys are following the discussion in the UK, but what's probably going to happen is that companies that offer encryption services from the United Kingdom will be forced to basically give a key to the government, and this is what we do not know from free European societies. I think this is a dictatorship now.
So over to Krista Zurita Ron. If I ask you the same question as I asked Raphaël Halet, want to know what consequences it had for you, what you did, would you do the same thing again?
Sí, definitivamente lo haría, a pesar de las consecuencias y las dificultades que se han presentado luego de las denuncias periodísticas que hemos hecho.
Yes, I do it again, but over the consequences that they suffer.
Yo diría que a pesar de las condiciones, siempre hay una salida y un camino y una decisión personal que tomar.
I always gonna decide over the consequences that you're gonna have, but you have to take a decision, and that decisions. It depends. It not depends what's gonna be the consequences, but it's only to do it. No?
Sí, yo perdí mi empleo en el diario en el que trabajaba. Fui enjuiciado y perseguido políticamente por un gobierno, y sin embargo yo, a pesar de ello, logré abrir mi blog de investigación, que este momento genera información muy sensible.
Yeah, I lost my job in the newspaper El Universo, and I still worked in my blog, in my own blog, and I over the persecutions of the government, but I still doing the denunciations over the situations in Ecuador.
Y tal vez esta decisión está relacionada con lo que se ha hablado y escuchado esta tarde con mis colegas periodistas y acerca del compromiso que se tiene con el periodismo y con la verdad.
Yeah, well, now I can understand my colleagues about the situation and what is the action that we have to take over this kind of corruption situations.
Así que, pues sí, yo siempre supe que podía desembocar en un proceso de persecución y yo lo volvería a hacer.
He know about what's going to be the consequence, and well, the government's going to start to persecute the journalists. So he knows what's going to be the consequence. So he's going to do it again and again to over this kind of corruption of the government, the Ecuadorian government.
We heard that the public attention and scrutiny could form a sort of protection. Is that your experience? That the more attention you have in the media, the more public scrutiny, that forms a form of protection for those who speak out. Is that your experience?
Sorry.
It was said that with media attention, that forms a form of social protection against those who speak out. Is that his experience? ¿Había cualquier forma de protección con la exposición en el medio? ¿Eso es su experiencia?
No. La posibilidad de expresar casos de corrupción no significa que exista que existe una protección a quienes efectivamente denuncian. De hecho, todo lo contrario.
No. Depends when you are working with this kind of media. It's not necessary that they have a protection. They don't have any kind of protections that can help to.
De hecho, la realidad
the reality
es que a pesar que las denuncias lo que generaron es un proceso represivo.
Well, the reality is that now the denunciations of the government have a consequence
contra la prensa
or over the press.
Y no se diga contra quienes filtran información.
And well, it's not only the press. It's also to the other people that working to try to say what is the government doing.
Hemos tenido que construir un sistema de defensa de personas que filtran información.
We have to build a kind of network with all the colleagues to try to show the information about what is happening in Ecuador.
Okay. We are out of time. It's 1:30, and I was told to end 1:30. That is what I'm going to do right now. And I would like to end with the last words of Christian. The important thing is to form alliances, form networks, and to know each other. And that's why we are all here. And I hope that you're able to do that also during these 2 days. So thank you for today, and we'll meet again tomorrow morning. Thank you so much.